Welcome to Wannabe Clutter Free, formerly Wannabe Minimalist, the podcast for busy families who are tired of the chaos, fed up with being overwhelmed, and ready to enjoy life again. Each week, we talk about how to let go of the clutter so that you can focus on the things that actually matter. And it's not just physical clutter. We talk about the mental and emotional stuff too, because if it's holding you back, it's time to ditch it. I share what I've done in my own life to declutter, organize, and calm the chaos, but you won't just hear it from me. There are amazing guests too. It's practical, doable, and simple for those of us that want to be clutter-free. Hello, my friend. Welcome back to the show. My name is Deanna Yates, and you are listening to episode 200 of the Wannabe Clutter-Free podcast. I am so excited to be here today. I wasn't really sure what to cover on this 200th episode. I cannot believe we've made it this far. To be honest, I talked to my mom and she's like, "How do you keep coming up with things to talk about?" Thanks, Mom. I love you. But there's lots, right? There's so much to talk about when it comes to decluttering and living clutter-free and wanting to minimize the things and distractions we have in our lives. Plus, it's really fun to get to talk to a bunch of guests. We've had so many amazing guests on the show. And it's just one of those things where I love being able to come talk to you. I get so much feedback on different things about the show, whether it's helping you declutter, whether it's in your ears as you're decluttering and giving you that motivation, whether you're just here to have a friend on the journey with you. I am so excited to be that person for you. So thank you so much for joining me today. Honestly, because of all of you, the show is where it is. Like, I just pinch myself. I am in the top 1% of all podcasts. We have had almost 2 million downloads of this show over the last, has it been 4 years already? Something crazy like that. And yeah, I started it over 4 years ago. So it has just been an incredible journey. So thank you so much for being here and being part of it, being part of the Wannabe Clutter-Free family. And a lot of you, I asked for ideas for today's show, and a lot of you wanted to hear from my husband and his take on it. And eventually I will get him on this podcast. I promise. He just wasn't up for it this week. So, which I totally get, right? You can't force anything. It's how I feel about our decluttering efforts when we're working with our families as well. We can't force it. We can ask them, we can invite them on the journey, but if they are wanting to do it, then it's just not the right time. So we'll get him on the show, maybe for number 250, hopefully before that. But anyway, others of you wanted help on decluttering your car, which I am 100% on board with. I will do another episode about that. Other comments were getting people to declutter with you in your family, things like that. Toys are a big one. I'm going to talk about toys next week. So join next week's episode. We're going to talk all about toys and how important play is in our families and what does that mean for the number of toys we need in our home. So come back next week for that one. So what are we going to be talking about today? Well, I want to take you down memory lane a little bit. I want to look back on the last 10 years of my life when it has come to decluttering, different lessons I've learned, where we've been on our journey. We have traveled a lot. We have moved a lot. So I think we have different perspectives to bring to this idea of what does it mean to live with less? What does that mean for your family? What are the lessons you can learn along the way? So if you will permit me, we are going to go back all the way back to 2014 when our decluttering journey started. So that's where we're going to go back, and I'm going to give you a lesson that I learned each year along the way. So hopefully this will be fun to you. If you like this show though, can you do me a favor and just rate it? Rate it on Apple and Spotify. Give it a review if you like and share it with a friend. That would be really helpful for the show. If you are not enjoying all the ads we have on the show, totally get that, but this is my livelihood and I provide this information to you for free every week, just in exchange for listening to a few ads. And I bring you companies that I actually believe in, that I use the products. So check them out if you want. And if you don't want to hear those, I do have an ad-free feed. It is $5 a month, can be even less if you go for an annual plan. You get the entire back catalog of this podcast without any ads on it. Or you also, if you do the annual plan, there are some amazing bonuses there for you as well. So check that out. And then if you want to continue this conversation, you can come over to the Wannabe Minimalist family group on Facebook and share. I will have a link there. This is where I've gotten ideas for the show for this week as well. So I love being able to chat with the community there, get your feedback, understand what you want to be hearing about, and then come join in, ask your questions, let us know what you need help with, and we will dive on in and get back to you. So it's a really, really fun community. So check that out. It is on Facebook. So just come on over there, but that's a free community for you as well. All right, so let's dive into this episode. We're going to start all the way back in 2014. So at this point, we were living in Boulder, Colorado. Our daughter was 1 at this point. We decided that we were running a business. We had a baby, and we thought, we look at the same view. We sit in the same building every single day. We don't really leave this apartment too much. We're just on the phone and we're doing a lot of virtual stuff. We were digital nomads pre the COVID work from home era. And we thought we could do this from anywhere. And one regret we had always had in our life was that we didn't travel more. Both my husband and I, we met in college. And for whatever reason, we didn't tell each other that we really wanted to do study abroad. I think we both really would have enjoyed that program, and we just didn't. I don't know if we were just too comfortable where we were or whether we were nervous that the other one wouldn't want to. You know, young love, hot and heavy for sure, where you just, your whole life is wrapped up in that person. And we just let that slip to the wayside. So we didn't do it. And I can imagine how much fun it would have been. Like, he could have studied in Germany and I could have studied in Spain. Those were the languages we studied in school. And just how amazing that would have been. We could have gallivanted to Paris on the weekends. Like, my God, what a wonderful life that would have been. We didn't even bring it up. So I guess bonus lesson number 1 is talk to the people around you about what your dreams are, because you might be surprised that they might actually be somewhat similar. So bonus tip number 1, it wasn't even on my list, but as I'm talking about this, you know, it just kind of came to mind. So make sure you're putting that out there. Like, you don't necessarily have to act on them. Like, if I would have put out like, hey, I want to do study abroad, and he's like, no, then I could have made a decision based on that. But if I would have put out, I want to do study abroad, and he goes, oh my gosh, so do I. Like, that could have totally changed the trajectory of the first few years of our relationship, which might have been really cool. And we might not have gotten to where we got to in 2014, which was that we decided we wanted to go live in Europe for a while. We actually wanted to travel the whole world. We were going to do 1 month in a new place. So again, not totally disrupt our entire lives. We still had to work. We still were raising a baby. And we thought if we did 30 days in each location, it would give us a sample, right? We can go grocery shopping. We can explore the city on the weekends. We can, take daily walks around and figure out what the city is all about or wherever we were living and just get a feel for it. What is it like to live in other places in the world? And we called this 30-Day Locals. We do have an old Instagram feed that's up if you want to check that out. The site is down at the moment. Maybe we'll revive it someday. I could see that being a lot of fun. But anyway, at this point, decided, yes, this is what we were going to do. We went all in. We sold at least 80% of what we owned, probably more. We went from a 2-bedroom apartment with a loft in Boulder, Colorado, and we pared everything down to a 5-foot by 8-foot storage container, right? One of those pods or U-Haul boxes. And we set off. The stuff we kept were family heirlooms, toys. At that point, we thought we might have a second child. That wasn't in the cards for us. We only ended up having the one. So we kept a lot of baby stuff that we ended up parting with later. There were definitely some things that didn't make it into that storage box that we wanted. One was a couch that we had made. Yes, I am a crazy person and I actually built a couch from scratch at one point. And a rug. We had a nice rug that we ended up having to replace years down the road, which was fine. But there were a few things that didn't make it into the pod. So some things had to be sacrificed last minute as, our plane is leaving the next day and we're finishing up this packing. But we ended up selling a lot of what we owned. Some lessons that I learned from that were selling things can be very lucrative, but it can also be really, really hard. It takes a lot of time to sell your things. So the number one thing I came away with from selling things was make sure that there is a threshold you have for the amount of money you want to make for your time, right? So maybe it's $20. Maybe you say it's probably going to take me an hour to get this thing posted, take the pictures, get it posted, meet up with the people, coordinate a meeting time, meet up with them. If they don't like it, then I've got to go through kind of figuring out who's going to be the second in line, that kind of a thing. So make sure you have a threshold, because if you're selling things for $1, $5, that is going to take away from all the other time you need to be spending with your family or getting repaired or doing other things. So definitely have a threshold. I didn't do that at the beginning, but as time became of the essence, I got to that point. So I was like, gosh, if I would have just focused on those bigger things, it would have just helped us out a lot along the way. So it would have lowered a lot of that stress. Now, again, I had a time constraint, right? I had by this date, because obviously we had plane tickets, it had to be gone. So that did help. It helped me kind of reprioritize, but make sure you set priorities on that, and yourself and your time is a priority that needs to be done. So the second lesson there was that you can live with so much less, right? We ended up traveling for about 6 months that time. We only made it through Europe. We left in June and we came back in December, and we did 6 different places. We did England, Scotland, Germany, Spain, Switzerland, Greece, and I'm missing one. Maybe that's it. Maybe those were the places. And it was really great. I will not lie. It didn't actually end up being less stressful. I mean, because you do no longer have a safety net. You don't have family and friends to rely on. You're traveling around different places. So I don't want people to get this huge romantic idea that like, oh my gosh, my entire life would be solved if I could just travel 6 months in Europe. Your life follows you. However, it was an amazing experience and I wouldn't trade it. I just redid our gallery wall and I put up 10 pictures from that time. And it's just really nice to be able to look back on the different things we have done and just remind ourselves of that. And we do that all over our house. Like if you're watching this on YouTube, the picture behind me is from Rio de Janeiro. That is, we went hang gliding, and that is the platform you run off of with your tandem hang glide pilot. And you run off into the ocean, and it is amazing. And I love being able to have reminders of things like that around our house. And so definitely worth doing it if you want to do something crazy and big like that. I'll be the first person to cheer you on and be the person saying like, yeah, totally, let's do it. Let's figure out how to make it happen. I definitely want that for you. But I also want you to realize it's not going to solve all your problems. All the things kind of stay the same. They just come with you. So we still had to figure out schedules for a 1-year-old and how to fit in business time and working for different people around the world, right? How did that time translate? It all worked out and it was lovely, but there are definitely logistics to work out. So that's 2014. 1, make sure you have a threshold. If you do insist on selling your things, do not, unless you're going to do like a garage sale, that's going to be your time to sell those $1 things. Those also have their own difficulties, but make sure you have a threshold so that your time is being valued. And then 2, understand that you can live with a lot less. This was our first foray into what does it mean to not have all this stuff? Like getting rid of 80% of what we own, taking a 2-bedroom place and putting it into a 5x8 container. I was shocked by the amount of stuff that was just coming out of the woodwork that we had from who knows where and who knows what. I mean, I think there's a picture of me hula hooping. Why did I have a hula hoop? I was a 33-year-old woman with a newborn. Like, I don't remember picking up a hula hoop. I don't remember having a hula hoop. So I don't know, right? It was really interesting to see and not understanding or not even knowing where a lot of the things came from. So that kind of that lesson, the very beginning of our journey is just like, there's a lot of things you have. I bet right now, if you have not done something like this, that you would be surprised that you actually have hidden behind the doors, and just understanding that you can let go of a lot of it. 2015 was our pendulum swing year. It was kind of going back the other way, and where it really solidified minimalism for me. But before we get into that, we're going to take a quick break to hear from our sponsors this week. And when we come back, we will talk about that pendulum swing. I'm also going to take a little less time on each year, as this could be a very long episode.
I'm Margaret.
And I'm Amy.
And together we host the podcast, What Fresh Hell? Laughing in the Face of Motherhood.
Margaret, I would say you're sort of a where are my keys kind of mom.
Correct. Sometimes a where are my kids kind of mom. Well, you're aiming more of a, we were supposed to leave 35 seconds ago, Mom.
I mean, touche. In each episode of What Fresh Hell, we come at a topic from our usually completely opposite perspectives. I bring the research.
And I bring kind of the gimlet eye. Like, is that research really going to work, people?
And almost 10 million downloads later, we're still laughing.
We also talk to experts in the parenting field, plus parents with stories we can all learn from.
We make each other laugh, we challenge each other's assumptions, and we have what we think is the best parenting community on the internet.
Check out What Fresh Hell, Laughing in the Face of Motherhood, wherever you listen to podcasts.
All right, welcome back. So let's talk about 2015, the pendulum swing, going from only having what fit in a 5x8 storage box and what we had in our carry-on luggage to now we went and bought a house. So we came back to the States. We decided we didn't want to continue traveling with a child. I think that fear get in our way, honestly. I think we could have continued. We started in Europe where it was comfy and it was easy, but it was expensive. And so we were about to go to places that were less expensive. And I think we let people talk us into that maybe not being the safest thing for a young family to be doing, which I don't know. I'm kind of sad to say that we did let that fear hold us back. I do want to, that's kind of lesson number 2. Don't let fear hold you back from something that you really want to do. Just research and be prepared and be aware of it. We're going to get lots more than 10 lessons in here today. I'm really excited about this. But we ended up moving back to the States. We bought a house. And at this point, we only had what fit in a 5x8 container. We didn't have beds. We didn't have a crib for our daughter. Actually, we did keep her crib. That was packed away. But she didn't have a bed. At this point, she was getting old enough to be transitioned to an actual bed. She wasn't fitting in. We had a mini crib because that's what fit in our last place. And so at this point, we were kind of transitioning to the next stage of life. We decided we weren't having another child, so it was out with the baby stuff and kind of embracing this new point where we were. But we had a lot of things gifted to us. We thrifted a lot of things, and we went the other way. So from going from nothing, we kind of pendulum swung to filling our house. And I am really affected by my surroundings. I'm an extrovert. I get my energy from outside and bring it in and then make it part of myself and then put myself back out in the world. And so I get really energized by what's around me. I get really into wherever we're living. So what is the style where we're living? What's going on? And I have really had to learn what my personal style is. So over the decade, maybe that's lesson 4. We'll get there in a second. But I do have that as one of the lessons, is kind of figuring out what works for you. But this, I didn't have this lesson yet, right? I hadn't learned it. This was the opposite. This was, we're now here. My friends do this. This is how they live. They're offering us these things. So we took in a lot. That is when the lesson of being overwhelmed was really drilled into my head. All of this stuff that was supposed to make us happy, that we felt like we needed, now that we were living and we were quote unquote settled down, we needed to have these things to help us go have fun on the weekends and have people over or do all the things, like just be more comfortable in our home. And if you're watching me on YouTube, I am doing air quotes, comfortable, because it was the opposite happened, right? We weren't comfortable in our home. We had a bunch of toys our daughter never played with, because we thought we just lived 6 months without any toys. She needs toys. And we don't have a couch. Well, let's get a couch and a dining table. And so much of this was gifted to us, which was really nice and super generous of our friends. We got back into woodworking. We tried to work on different hobbies. But before long, we felt overwhelmed. There was so much stuff. There was visual clutter everywhere. I put stuff up on every wall. We had so many different things going on. We had lots of different colors in our house. We had lots of different things happening. And so I think that it was the lesson was solidified of less is more. You just spent 6 months not needing all this stuff. Do you actually really need it now? And as luck would have it, I got a job opportunity back in Chicago. So we packed up again, sold our home, packed up again, and moved to Chicago. And this time we did use a U-Haul truck because we could drive for the move. So we didn't pare down quite as much. We definitely pared down a lot, and we tried to keep the bare minimum because guess what? While we were moving to a 2-bedroom eventually, I was being offered a job as a property manager, but it was a brand new building, so it wasn't built yet. I couldn't move into that building. So the only place they had available for us as part of my compensation package was a 1-bedroom apartment. So the three of us went from a 3-bedroom house that we had filled to the gills with an extra playroom on the back, so kind of like 4 bedrooms, to a 1-bedroom apartment for 3 months. Now, we just didn't unpack. We unpacked the necessary. She had her bed, we had a couch, and we had an air mattress, and all of our stuff, and like we unpacked our clothes, and everything else stayed in boxes because we knew within a few months we were going to be moving again to a 2-bedroom that was going to be our more permanent place. But again, we had now that pendulum swing back, right? So we got to see the stark difference of living with nothing, living with too much, back to this temporary situation and being like, okay, I really think enough is enough. We now need to figure out what the heck do we want? What do we really want to be living with? And let's figure that out when we go into this next place. So that is what 2016 was all about for me. It was defined by look at the stark contrast, the being able to see the different options and how they had affected our lives back to back was so eye-opening. I am so thankful we had that experience. Even though living in a 1-bedroom condo for 3 months was not super comfortable for our small family of 3, but with an entire life's worth of stuff. Why we didn't just pay for a storage unit for a few months is beyond me. I guess we didn't want to move it again with everything else. So I don't know. I think maybe we didn't realize we were going to be there as long as we were, but we ended up being there for just over 3 months. And so it was kind of a nice reminder of like, if we didn't, because we didn't get out all the stuff, we didn't get out all the decor, right? We literally tried to live with the bare minimum. And it was nice to be able to say like, okay, we don't need all this stuff up. Maybe there are things that we had before that we just had because we thought we needed them, and maybe we don't actually need them. Let's take one more quick break. And when we come back, I'm going to dive into 2017 and really tapping into finding our personal style or the things that really light us up. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Let's look at 2017 when we finally got to move into our new place, downtown Chicago, brand new, first people in the building. Absolutely wonderful opportunity. Super cool. Also got to be the only people that had ever lived there. I got to put my stamp on this place. And it was super cool, right? It was super cool to get to live downtown. We had an amazing view out over like this really cool old part of Chicago. And this was where I tapped into home design. This is where I tapped into figuring out that just because it works for somebody else doesn't mean it's going to work for you. And just because maybe what you want to do might be a little different, that's okay. Try it out. Nothing's permanent. Clearly, over the last 4 years, we had been all over the world. We had lived in different places. We had bought and sold a home. We had lived in really uncomfortable surroundings. So it's okay to try things, see what's going to be different, see what works for you. And it was just a really fun moment of experimentation. I got to work with home designers who worked for the company that I worked for. So I got like free home design, which was really cool. And we worked to look at different places. I upgraded some things in my life, which was really great. It was the first time I'd ever really done that. And it felt good. This was a moment of quality over quantity and really diving into that and figuring out how can you maximize space? Because again, this was a small 2-bedroom. The living room was teeny tiny. We didn't have any bonus space, any bonus rooms. We had a large master bedroom, which was nice. We did put our desks in there. And then we also had our daughter had a nice walk-in closet. So her toys lived in there, but her room in and of itself wasn't very big. And again, 2-bedroom, 2-bath for the 3 of us, tiny, teeny, tiny living room and kitchen. But it was a great experience of learning that if you can, at the moment, buy the quality thing, it's going to last you longer. You won't need as much. And then trying to be really multi-purpose in our spaces and in the things we owned and being really purposeful. And this was the first time I used like meal kits to really like enhance our lives. I worked full time. I had a very, very, very demanding job, in-person job where I was on all day as a property manager. And being able to buy myself a few luxuries and support was really, really important for my sanity and for me feeling like a really good mom, right? I didn't have to do everything from scratch to be a good mom. And this was the lesson that was driven home for me during that time. All right, so let's tap into 2018. This is the year minimalism hit me. So before it was more about clutter free and living with less and being really purposeful, quality over quantity, not having a lot of visual clutter. This year was the year that minimalism was just like, yep, that's more my jam. Because for me, minimalism is having just what you need, but also understanding that stuff is stuff and there are way more important things in life, like who you are, what you're into, your activities, the people around you, the relationships you have. Those moments, those in-person moments, like the real life that happens, that is what is important. So this year, there was a very large incident at our building. Movers broke a sprinkler head on one of the floors and it flooded quite a few apartments in this building. Brand new. Again, a lot of them weren't moved into, but lots of them were. And it was a really, really hectic time. And I understandably frustrated for everyone involved. And of course, I'm not trying to make light of people's items being damaged. Definitely not. Having insurance, another lesson to be learned here because things happen. Like, that's what insurance is for. And just understand that life is gonna life and things don't always go according to plan. And who knew this was gonna happen, right? So just accidents happen and things happen. So if you can, make sure you have the insurance, get the good insurance if you can, and shop around. And then two, understand that stuff is just stuff. Like I had people screaming at me over a rug that they bought that they probably were gonna replace next year anyway. Or just different things that had happened, like just different items that they had. And it was just a moment where I never wanted to be that attached to my stuff that I was so irate at someone else. So I really started to learn the lessons of like, it's okay, it's just stuff. And I try to bring that into our everyday life with our daughter. So this last week, she spilled something, not a big deal. We can clean it up. Like if something breaks, it's just stuff, right? Likely we will replace it. Likely in 5 years, I wouldn't even remember we had that thing. It would have been replaced or donated or broken some other way. So just having that moment of take a breath. If something happens to your items, trying to put it into perspective. So I've obviously seen that from people coming at me from stuff getting lost, but then also trying to understand how I want to react if something that I own or have or cherish is broken. And knowing that it's not permanent anyway. This idea of permanence is fleeting. It's not real. And likely in a few years, my taste will change. My taste changed quite a bit. I try not to have a lot of stuff because my taste changes so much that I try to really bring in those quality pieces. So understand that life is going to happen. Don't get too attached to your stuff. Have stuff that you like, but really put it into perspective that the people around you, the relationships you have, and the relationship you have with yourself is way more important than any of the physical items we have in our life. That one was a big one. All right, 2019, we traveled again. So after that drama, the nightmare, I was so burnt out. I was like, nope, we were just going to take a month off. And then it was the summer. And then we found out kindergarten wasn't required in the states we wanted to live in. So we decided to take a full year off, turned into about a year and a half. And it was amazing because we were able to then do what we had wanted to do before. We traveled, we got to see different places. We spent the whole summer just being more free, and we really took the time off to be together as a family. And we didn't work much over that summer. It was really great to just have time. And I know not everybody gets that. I feel so grateful for that time in our lives. And if you go to 30-Day Locals, those are the videos you can see. We have a few 1-minute videos on there of just that summertime for us. We only even got a few of the cities put together, but it was really fun to get to do that. And then we spent a long, significant amount of time, at least 8 months in Germany. We were in Munich, Germany. Our daughter went to kindergarten there. And it was nice to have that moment that we had wanted to have all the way back in college, right? Way back to 2014 when we traveled the first time. That desire to live abroad, to really understand, get immersed in a culture. And I get it, like Germany is not a completely different culture from the US, but there were lots of differences. There were lots of things that were different. And it was a really great experience for something that was a little outside our comfort zone, but not too crazy, and getting to see the differences and some things that we really do miss and some things we definitely incorporated more into our life of more play, right? We'll talk about that next week on the podcast. Make sure you check that out when I talk with my guest next week about that. But those were some of the lessons, I do talk about them next week, that we learned in Germany. And it was a lot of fun. So I was really glad we got to have that next moment of like, what did we learn last time and how can we do it differently this time? And my lesson there in 2019 locked in for capsule wardrobes when it comes to decluttering and minimalism and living with less. Capsule wardrobes, my life changed. We did the entire summer with a more coordinated wardrobe for our entire family. We had been at a party the year before, and our friend had posted the pictures that she took of all the guests online. And our picture was the only one that was in black and white, and everyone else's were in color. And I was like, that's weird. So I asked her about it. And what we wore to the party, like our colors just didn't go. So we just clashed when the three of us were together, my husband, myself, and our daughter, and we just didn't coordinate, I guess, and she just didn't like it. So she put our picture in black and white. And so that was the lesson of like, maybe we should be a little more intentional about, because I had kind of gone the other way again, pendulum swinging, right? More important on who we're with and who we are than what we're wearing, but also what we put out into the world is the first impression. If people were modifying our image online or on their Facebook page, I was like, maybe we should make a couple changes, and not to appease other people, but just like, it was a moment of like, oh, I never even thought about it before. And so this time we were very purposeful in the clothes we had. We made sure, it was a lot of neutral colors, and then we had a pop of pink, which was our daughter's favorite color at the time. And so it was just nice to be able to understand no matter what we put on that day, the three of us were going to look amazing together. And it didn't take that much effort. It took a little upfront effort, but from that point on, it was easy. We didn't even think about it every day, and we coordinated and we looked great, and you can see them. Again, proof is in the pudding. You can check those videos out, 30 Day Locals on Instagram, if you want to see kind of what our capsule was like and how we coordinated without having to put in effort on a daily basis, just a one-time investment in the beginning. So that's where capsule wardrobes opened my eyes. I absolutely love them. And in fact, I will do a little plug here. It's a couple months off still. At the middle of May, from May 20th through the 24th, I'm holding another summit. And it's going to be all about capsule wardrobes and shopping and being confident in your clothes. We'll talk a little bit about skincare and a little bit about makeup. We will do sustainability and choosing things that are more environmentally friendly, because I don't want to be promoting fast fashion. I want us to be promoting curated capsules that can stand the test of time, that really fit with who you are and how you feel and how you want to present yourself to the world. So save the date. That's going to be May 20th through the 24th. I will put out more information. It's going to be very similar in the format to the summit I did in January. It's going to be a free ticket, so you won't want to miss that. But I just wanted to put in a little plug and to keep it on your radar, because I think that one's going to be really fun. All right, let's jump to 2020. COVID has hit. And the lesson for me during COVID was, if we didn't use it during COVID, we were never going to use it. Y'all, if you don't remember, the world was coming to an end, right? Like, things were totally disrupted. We had no idea what was going to happen. And looking back, I think it's so easy to be like, oh, that was so silly. But when you're living in the moment, if you can go back to the moment you were in COVID, and like, there was a lot happening. We didn't know, right? Things were closed down. All these events were being stopped. Kids weren't going to school. You couldn't buy toilet paper anywhere. Huh? So, there were moments you were just like, I don't know I don't know what we're supposed to do this week. Do I need to stockpile? Do I not need to stockpile? Are we going to be able to go to the store? Can I go to the store? Am I going to die if I go to the store? You didn't know what was happening. So if you go back to that moment of chaos and panic and like just uncertainty, a lot of us started to declutter because we were home all the time. We needed the space for desks and things like that. But also people started to hoard things, right? We're hoarding toilet paper. I was hoarding all sorts of things that we could be creative with because we weren't shopping as much. I wasn't going to the store to find things. So we were keeping odds and ends and random things that I wouldn't keep now because it was COVID time. And then when things started to open up again, I had this moment of like, if I didn't use it when the world was coming to an end, definitely don't need it in my life because clearly I'm not, one, going to remember I had it because I didn't use it, or two, it wasn't that important because I wasn't shopping. So we were trying to use everything in our house as much as we could and as efficiently as we could so we could shop less and save money because it was kind of a little scary for that summer of COVID as well. But that was my big lesson. If you're not going to use it during a pandemic, it deserves to get cut. All right, 2021. I moved into this moment of life chapters. I started to look back on my life and look to where we were, and our daughter was at home, right? So she was in first grade when COVID hit. School shut down for the last few months of school, so everyone got home and everyone was staying home. And the next year, our school district was amazing, and we had the opportunity to choose between going to the classroom or staying home and doing school from home. We chose to stay home because we weren't really sure what was going to happen. And, there were some health concerns in our family, and I'm not going to go into that because it's pretty private. But for our own choices, we chose to stay home and school from home. So I knew it was a life moment. I knew this was going to be a chapter in our life. I knew it wouldn't be forever. But I started embracing this idea of if my life is a book, I've had a lot of different chapters and a lot of different opportunities. And that's where I was. So I understood that things aren't permanent and just to embrace where we are when we are and let things flow in and out. Just like the ocean flows in and out. The tide comes in, the tide goes out. That's where I got to with our stuff. And I'm not even going to call it clutter anymore. It's just the things we own because when we have it, if we're using it, it's not clutter. And then once we stop using it and we realize we're not going back to that moment in life, it's time to let it go, live somewhere else. Of course, you could hold on to it and keep it for just in case moments, but you never know what's going to come back around. And then the longer you keep it, the more you have that moment of forgetfulness. You forget you even have it. It gets tucked in a box and then you're moving and you go, why the heck did I keep this thing? Like it has been a decade since I've looked at it. Why did I keep it? Because I thought maybe that life moment would come back around or I would need that thing again. So understand that life is cycles and maybe it will come back around, but trust that when it comes back around, you will be able to get that thing again, or it will end up in your life again, or you will realize you can live without it. So don't hold on to things so tightly. Don't hold them so close to your chest. Release, let go. Understand that you can put things back out into the cycle of the world and it can come back to you. I dove heavily into my Buy Nothing group, gave away a lot of things on there when I realized that kind of this ebb and flow of like, we're out of that life stage. And if we end up back in that life stage, we will just end up back in that life stage and we will get the things we need. And perhaps they will be available to us on the Buy Nothing group because I'm putting these out here now. So maybe it will come back to me in the future. A little woo-woo, I know, but I really like the idea of the tides ebbing and flowing, coming in and out, and going into these different life stages and just really embracing where you are when you are and not living in fear of the future of like, I might need this though. You might not, right? It's a 50-50 coin flip at some points. So maybe just give in to the fact and like trust that if you need it, it'll come back to you. Just a fun little lesson I learned. And it has made me feel so much lighter over the last few years. And it's just made it so much easier to have that moment of like, I don't have to do these giant declutters. I'm just letting go of this moment. And if I want to do that again, I will get it again in the future. It will come back to me. And I'm not saying buy new. Letting go of stuff is more about being in tune with the world around us. That means the environment and our impact on it. And so it's not about throwing things away and getting new things. This is not what this is about at all. It is letting something go that has good life, but I'm not going to hoard it. I'm going to release it out, give it out freely and let somebody else use it while it is useful. And then understanding that I, in turn, hopefully have that same energy come back into my life if I need something like that in the future. I might thrift it. I will look on my Buy Nothing group. I might ask friends for it, things like that. And then worst case scenario, last resort, I will go buy new if I need to, but I generally try the other options first. I got our Peloton used. Like, I love our Peloton. Absolutely wanted one of those things. Dreamt about it, thought about it, searched on Craigslist high and low, was on there every single day. I was obsessed, and then finally got one that was secondhand. So again, helping someone else get it out of their life. They weren't using it, came into my life. So there are lots of examples like that in my life, but that's just the first one that popped in my head right now. All right, let's get on to 2022. This was the year we moved into our current home. This is the first time I've ever felt like I want to be here forever. And it makes me super sad that we're only renting this place. My dream is that we will be able to buy this home from the landlord at some point, because we do have an independent landlord. So my fingers are crossed. I'm putting it out into the universe, putting that energy out there, that hopefully this will be our permanent home. We absolutely love it here. And that was a shock to everybody in our friend group and family group, because we are the people that are constantly moving. We have lived lots of different places. We've moved 16-ish times in 20 years. So the fact that we actually have a place where we want to stay for a very long time, at least a decade, is what I call a home. It kind of surprised everybody. But this place, because this is the place I want to be forever, and I want to put that energy out there, and I want to manifest that, whether you believe in that or not, I do think when we put our energy where we want, those are the things that come back to us. If I don't put it up in this home, if I'm not using it in this house, why am I using it? This is the place I want to be. Again, this is kind of that just in case clutter stuff. Let it go. If it's not going up in this house, it needs to go, because this is the first time I feel like this is where we want to be. If you are not in that point in life, I totally get it. Clearly, I've been there a lot. If we go back in our history to where we've lived and things we've been doing, but it really is important that you live in the moment and live for now, because we never know what's going to come into the future. So use what you have. And if you're not using it, give it a thought of a moment of just saying, like, do I actually need this thing? And the answer is probably no. So go ahead and let it go. All right, let's get to 2023. My lesson for this one, it is okay for you to like things, but to be selective. So back to that eco-friendliness, I've had a lot of guilt over the things we've had in our home, the things we've owned, how much stuff we have. I struggle really hard to buy new things. This is seen in my wardrobe, in what I wear. I love a capsule because it helps me stay within this parameter, but also I have a lot of buyer's remorse. When I buy something, I want it to be perfect. So I'm really working on being satisfied with the choices I make. So having a high bar, but not an impossible bar for when I buy new things. So like the sweater I have on, if you can see, like, I like this sweater. I think it's really fun. The sleeves, I didn't notice them until I had them on a video for the first time. And I was like, oh, they're a little puffier than I thought. But right now you're only seeing a third of the sweater, right? When I have it with my whole outfit, I really like it. And so I try to have those moments of, I have a high bar. I want to really like the things. I want it to be a heck yes. But for me, I have to understand that my heck yes needs to be a high bar and not an impossible bar. Because when I set that impossible bar, I get really frustrated and I never end up getting the things I want. And then I struggle because I never bought the thing that I needed, or I didn't find the thing I needed. And I didn't spend the time curating it and getting it and understanding that there is some effort that needs to be put into that in the forefront, because I really try to avoid quick buys on Amazon. I really try hard to avoid just that knee-jerk reaction purchase. But that also means that I need to put in effort and have a little planning time so that I get the things that I want and that I will cherish and that meet that high bar, but not the impossible bar. So I hope that makes sense. And an easy way maybe to understand it in a quick little snippy form is to buy once, cry once. So that's buying something that is maybe a stretch for you, but it's the best quality you can afford at the time that is going to last you longer, right? There's the story of buying the cheap shoes that wear out over time. And this is why it's harder for people with less resources to get ahead, because they can only afford the not quality shoes, where the rich person can afford the expensive shoes that will last for decades, maybe their entire life, because they can get those expensive shoes resold and it's quality leather that doesn't wear out and those kinds of things. So trying really hard to step above that bare minimum that's going to wear out and you're going to have to rebuy it over and over and over again, to that middle level. I'm not at the rich person level. I'm not able to spend $700 on a pair of shoes. It is yikes. But being able to buy maybe that middle level, something that the quality is there, it will last for 5 years, 10 years, versus something that will wear out at the end of the season. So trying to be ethical in our choices for what we buy, things that will wear over time, things that are made with quality materials, things that are made in an environmentally friendly way. I know it's kind of a lesson I've been learning along the way, but really, really, really diving into it and trying to be a lot more just buy once, cry once, buy once, cry once, because it's hard for me to spend money. It's definitely a hard thing for me. And then my bonus tip is that it is hard to do new things. Like, you look back at this journey and where I am from where we started in 2014 to where we are now. And if you're just meeting me now, you think, gosh, well, must be easy for her. She doesn't have a lot of stuff. Look at my house. Okay. Trust me, it wasn't easy for me. I just went through an entire decade of lessons I've learned, places we've lived, things we've done, and mistakes I've made. Mistakes I've made plenty, right? But I just keep trying because it's something on my list. It's my goal. It's a goal for me. It is something that drives me. It has become my business to help other people get over those first hurdles of letting go of the stuff they don't need and understanding it's okay. But it's taken me a long time to get here. But anything worth doing is probably going to be difficult. If it's on your goal list, it's something you don't do now because it's a challenge for you. Our brains want to do the easy things. They want to take the easy way out. And this is something we have to work around. We have to keep fighting to go over those hurdles and understand when you first start something, it is going to be hard. If you start a diet, that first day is fine because you're all excited about it. Day 2, when you wake up hungry, that is the day that stinks. That is not the day. That is the day most people quit because it gets hard. But if you can make it over that day, same with decluttering. Day 1, easy. You're excited about it. You can see all sorts of things that you want to get rid of. Day 2, hard. You're tired. Your house looks maybe a little bit messier. You're like, wait a minute, I thought this was supposed to get better. It will, but not on day 2. So you have to get through day 2. You have to get through day 3. You have to get through those first initial really hard days before it gets easier and before you will really start to see the benefits and feel the benefits. Once you feel those benefits, the world is your oyster and you will be able to just go ahead and really persevere and really start to tick off the boxes and start to see all the progress. But until you get there, it's probably going to be a little bit of a struggle. So just keep with it, keep at it, understand I've been there. The lessons are hard fought for sure. Lots of tears and struggles along the way, but it's definitely worth it. And life feels so much lighter. And once you get to that point, it's really, really good. So you can get there. And I am so excited for you. So please, please, please let me know what you thought of this episode. I can't believe we made it to episode 200. I would absolutely love to hear your thoughts, comments, questions, lessons you've learned along the way. Please share them with me. You can reach out to me on Instagram at Wannabe Clutter Free. Come join our community, the Wannabe Minimalist family group on Facebook. Go ahead and leave a rating and a review for this show. I'll see your review. You can tell me what you thought of this episode. I would love to know. You can leave a comment on YouTube. You can leave a simple rating on Spotify as well. And then share the episode if you want a friend to come along on this journey with you. Give the show a shout out, see if they'll join you, and then start working on some of these lessons together and be each other's accountability partner. Be the sounding board for when you're having a hard day. It's so much easier when a friend has your back and vice versa. Be able to be that support system for them as well. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Please join me next week when I will be talking to Elizabeth Manley about the power of play. We're going to talk about why play is so important in our homes. What does that mean for the number of toys we should actually keep in our homes? And she has a very exciting free bundle coming out that I am participating in, and I am so excited to be part of it. So check that out. You will see all the details next week when it comes out on April 17th. All right, until then, have a lovely week, and I will see you back here. I'm Deanna Yates, and you've been listening to Wannabe Clutter Free. Cheers.